in brand storytelling, we then position our brand not as the hero of our story, but as the guide.
Dear innovators, welcome to the very first episode of the Angels Playbook podcast. In this space, we have the brand communicators, the investors, the investor analysts, and the whole general people that have sense in this business world to give us the strategy and unlock all the in and outs of running a business and sustaining a business in today's world. I have a documentary writer, an amazing storyteller, and the screenwriter of Showmax original documentary Freemen. So innovators, join me as I welcome to the studio, Tolu NeoDaniels.
Thank you very much.
Hi Tolu.
Hi Chidera, thank you for having me.
How was it like working on an Igbo documentary?
I've always wanted to date Igbo women. Sort of learning the culture was part of the way of showing that I'm a serious guy. But that's part of the interest.
Yeah, for you to look at that.
And generally, the Igbo culture is amazing.
Yeah.
The entrepreneurship, the hustle. I still tell people that I have Igbo blood in me. Because right from the time I left secondary school, I was just doing all sorts of work. In fact, it was one of the things that a friend of mine told me when we met in jam class. She was like, I like this thing about you that she's also an Igbo girl and we sort of liked each other. So that's another. Well, she was like, I like the fact that you are industrious. That was her exact words. So I feel like I inherited that from Igbo blood.
But you grew up in Lagos, yeah?
Yeah, I grew up in Lagos.
So now let's talk about stories and the psychology behind it. Like, what is the thing about story that just joins us together and make us connect and resonate with each other?
Moving beyond, the assumptions, there's a research that was done at Harvard, was also done at Stanford, and they arrived at the same result. Stories are 25 times more memorable than facts.
Yeah.
When I was in secondary school, SS2, schools usually have this pageant stuff that they do end of the year.
Yeah.
That they crown Miss whatever name on the school. Of course, I wonder why they don't do for Mr.
They do Mr. now.
No, for my school, it's always been for women.
Really?
We were always like, what's going on? So, interestingly, the lady that was crowned Miss Chris College, I attended a school called Chris College, it's for SS2, was someone that had been a friend of mine since primary 6. So when they didn't plan it, but they asked her a question that, if she was to choose a guy to be a Mr. Chris, who would she choose? And she mentioned me. I wasn't a popular guy in school. I was just a smart guy.
You're a nerd.
Something like that. I wasn't, tall or anything. I was come to school, go back home, I discovered that right from that point where she mentioned me, till the end of secondary school, I just became popular overnight. Girls started looking at me differently. I'm someone who thinks a lot. I think, I philosophize, I like to ask questions from my experience. So I was just thinking about it, like, what's happening? There's this Sound Sultan song. Back in the days, they never used to come. What happened? And what I discovered was because someone publicly declared that, she liked me, or gave an inference like that, other people started liking me. So what I picked from that, as at that age, was that people like who other people like. The way the human mind is wired, we don't really work based on logic or rational thinking. The same guy who has always been there, right? Who's always been the smart, was fine a bit, but you never looked his way. The logic has been there, but there was no rational thinking. Yeah. But the moment you saw a Miss Chris College declare that, this is the guy she wants as Mr. Chris, people started thinking, okay.
Yeah.
So we make decisions not based on rational thinking, but based on emotional connection.
Yeah.
That's the beauty about storytelling, because stories do not ride on rational thinking. Stories ride on emotional connection. Stories create emotional connection. In fact, the story I just told you might be a lie, but you've been listening all through.
Yeah, true.
And I'm sure the viewers at the other end of the screen, I'm not going to tell you that it's true or false.
Let's believe it's true. Let's believe it's true.
Whatever, man. So what that means is that if I tell you a story, like this story I just told you, I'm not saying it's true or false. If I tell you a story, you remember it 22 more times than facts.
Yeah.
That is powerful. It's powerful because psychologically we make decisions by top of mind awareness. We decide based on information that is easily recallable to us.
Yeah.
If I have some information that is just down in my brain, I do not remember it, I cannot make decisions based on it. But what stories do is that the fact that they make things more memorable, it means that when I want to make a decision, it's the stories that are top of mind that I will remember.
True.
That's why stories are powerful, because they make things more memorable, and with that, it's easy to make decisions based on them. So when brands inculcate storytelling into their marketing, it's like everyone's gate is open.
When I was in school, secondary school and university, what I know about stories is fiction and non-fiction. Now I'm out and they're not saying brand storytelling. So I'm supposed to be crafting tortoise and the lion. What are we doing when you say brand storytelling?
So I believe that in my studies, brand storytelling is something that evolved out of people piecing together two different disciplines.
Okay.
So there's a guy that wrote a book, he's an economist. He said that all creation comes from synthesis. That is, when you bring in something from here, mix them together, you create something new.
Yeah.
So that's where I believe brand storytelling came from. Right? So there's a guy called Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell was, I think, a 20th century scholar that studied majority of the themes of myths across the world. That's stories that we tell across the world. European stories, African stories, American stories, Asian stories. When he studied them, he found out that there were like similar points in the way stories are told across the world.
Okay.
Right? So what does that mean? It means that the way we hear stories, the way we told stories, the way stories have been told to us from different generations across the world are similar.
Okay.
Right? So the way even our brains are wired to listen to stories are similar. What does that mean? It means that when we can unlock the pattern in which stories are told, it's easy for people to connect.
Yeah.
Right? And so what he did was, from his studies, he created something called the hero's journey. Now the hero's journey is like a storytelling pattern or formula that he believes, and those of us who study story also believe within, that it's like the framework of stories, or generally it's like a general framework of the way stories are told across the world, the way we listen to stories, the way we hear stories, the way we expect stories to be told. Internally follow this hero's journey formula, right? So marketers now brought Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, which people in filmmaking have been using, to develop films. What they now did was they brought it into the realm of marketing and branding, and joining that together is what became brand storytelling. I read a book called Building a Story Brand,
Okay.
right? And what the guy did was just what I explained. He connected Joseph Campbell's storytelling framework to branding. And what he discovered was, if we can position our brands in a way that we craft a story around our consumer, right? The consumer is the hero in our story. Every consumer is a human being, right? Every human being has a problem. Or to begin with, every human being has a desire.
Yeah.
The reason we are hustling, the reason we are even on the earth is to pursue that desire, right?
Yeah.
And the reason we are on the grind, the reason we wake up every day, the reason we are motivated is because we've not gotten that desire. There's something militating It's either maybe a lack of knowledge. According to Joseph Campbell, in every story, you find these three things. You find a hero, the main character, who has a desire, a desperate need, something he wants to get or she wants to get, and has not been able to get because there's a problem that is standing between that hero and the desire.
Yeah.
Now, in marketing, what this guy who wrote the book called Building a Story Brand says is that in brand storytelling, we then position our brand not as the hero of our story, but as the guide.
Very good.
Exactly. So, in the story of every brand, the story revolves around the consumer.
Okay.
The consumer is the hero of the story. The consumer has a problem,
Okay.
right? The consumer has a desire, first of all, and has a problem that is militating or preventing he or she from getting his desire. And then the brand comes as fairy godmother, as the interventionist, as the guide, who provides either a plan or some tools, products or services, to help the consumer get his desires. That's basically the idea of brand storytelling. Now, the genius of this idea is that when products are designed this way, when services are designed this way, or when brand communication is designed this way, the consumers get to feel like you entered into their heads.
Yeah.
Because you've gone ahead and you thought, okay, this average consumer, what are his problems? What does he really want? And how do I position myself as, someone who came to help him solve that problem? Imagine if you tell a consumer that, oh, what you really want is relevance. And I'm going to give you this MacBook to make you appear. Many people use a Mac. They don't use like 30% of the functions. But they just flip it open. Once you see the Apple logo, like, yeah, you're a Mac guy. It endears people, it endears consumers. That's the power of storytelling. And that's brand storytelling in a nutshell.
So how do you craft compelling stories that resonate with the company's values, mission or vision? Because that's basically what you want to communicate. And the way the story will be very sustainable, that you can take over the years. Yeah.
All right. It's quite simple. There's a framework that we follow. So I'll share two frameworks, right? So I remember this name, Donald Miller.
Okay.
He has something called the story brand framework, right? And in that framework, it gives us 7 pillars of brand storytelling. That every brand or company that follows the 7 frameworks or the 7 pillars can always use it to replicate brand communication that expands that story, right? And what are the 7 pillars? The first pillar is C, character. The main character of this story that you're trying to tell is your consumer, right? The next is desire, right? The consumer has a desire. Every consumer has a desire. Someone buying cosmetics wants to look good. That's his ultimate desire. I'm not buying cosmetics because I like the feel of my skin. I'm not buying a phone because I really want to communicate. Yeah, it could be like a status. If it's just to communicate, 33 things. So every consumer has a desire. So when you go the extra mile to think, what do these guys really want? What's their desperate need? Why are they really, spending money on this category of products and services? You can, when you find that out, you can. It helps. It helps in crafting a story, right? So the next is the problem. Now, the character has a desire. There's a problem that is militating. Either the character knows the problem or doesn't, right? You can be the one to say, "Oh, you have a problem." You understand? And when people are like, "Oh, really? It's been a problem," you get. And then after that is the guide, and that's where the brand is supposed to position itself. But the mistake that we've made so far is that most brands think brand storytelling is talking about themselves. Oh, we're XYZ brand. We started 94 years ago with one man with $1. No, Nobody cares about who started the brand like 4 years ago. Hello, I just want to drink coffee and leave.
Yeah.
Right? So what concerns me about, do you understand?
Yeah.
So, but when you shift from being the hero of the story to being the guide, everyone is selfish. When you're telling my story, I'll be listening to you. Like, okay, tell me something. Exactly. So that's the guide. And then the next thing is call to action. Now there must be something specific you're telling
Them to do.
the consumer, based on all of these previous 5 pillars. And then after the call to action, there's either failure or success.
Okay.
Now, failure or success means that you need to show what will the consumer be missing if they do not cash in on what you have to offer.
Okay.
Right? How would their life look like if they do not collect what you have in terms of product and services? That fear that, your life would look like this can motivate some people to say, I want to remain with these guys. A greater motivation is success. The beautiful picture of how their life would be if they would, exactly, they would key in, So those 7 pillars are what Donabinda called is story brand formula.
Okay.
And with these 7 formulas, you can keep creating stories that resonate, right? And these stories can be told across multiple platforms, right? The second framework is the 12 by 34 framework. The framework owned by Orange Academy.
Lagos.
Yeah, Orange Academy Lagos. I'm a proud.
Yeah, proud alumni. Shout out to Orange.
Shout out to Orange Academy. We
and all the orange minds.
So 12 by 34 is almost like a variant of the story brand framework.
Okay.
In the sense that 12 by 34 is just basically 1, 2, X, 3, 4. 1 represents the character, the hero, the consumer, and the world around him, right? When you understand who the consumer is and his universe, his realities, what's the sociocultural factors about him, what's the technological realities, economic realities, financial realities, political, legal realities, you can place him or her, the consumer.
Somewhere.
You understand? And then you then move to what's the desperate need. That's what Donawena calls desire, right? And then the X now represents the challenge. What's the wicked social problem that is plaguing the consumer or the target audience, right? And then you move to 3. 3 represents the storyteller's intervention. Now you as the brand, how are you intervening in this story, right? And then 1, 2, X, 4 represents the reason to believe, right? So now that you are intervening, why should they care? Why should the consumer pick you, right? It's the same thing John Donamela says about failure or success. You show them, okay, this is why you should, at times it'll be like a philosophical reason, because brands people eat it. Really, like I said earlier, stories ride on the power of emotional connection. So we are not rational when we consume stories. In fact, there's something called suspension of disbelief in filmmaking, right? It's the reason we cry when we watch movies. That this is not real, but you still cry. It's a psychological thing because when we watch movies, our disbelief is suspended. Our power of doubt, our power of critical thinking is suspended without us knowing it.
Or when you're hitting the character.
Exactly. So that's the power of stories. Stories, when we hear stories, there's something in our brain called oxytocin, some hormone that is released. It's also called the trust hormone. So when we hear stories and we key into those stories, we tend to trust the storyteller.
Yeah, true.
Right? So brands can do more storytelling in this framework, in this format. It endears people, and then these stories can, like you asked, consistently told, expanded, told in different angles, told across different platforms. But once it's according to these frameworks that positions the brand, the hero, as, and the brands as the guide.
So now you're saying something about across platforms, and we know that we're in like the tech gotten to tech, even a 5-year-old can go on Instagram, and your consumers are everywhere. They're on LinkedIn, they're on Instagram, they're on Twitter, but these platforms have different languages. When you come to LinkedIn, we're all professional here. When you go to Instagram, I don't even know what they do there, fake life. When you go to Twitter, those people are not very controversial. They don't like controversy. So you that have one story, how do I now tell these stories across these platforms? Yeah.
Awesome. So it's about understanding the mechanics of each platform, right? LinkedIn is more text, more long form content, more professional, as you said. So for LinkedIn, you might want to tell stories about innovation journeys and employee stories.
Okay.
Not about the brand, but about the people
In the brand.
real people. Oh, Lisa worked with us some years ago. She died of cancer. You be like, oh, do you understand?
Yeah.
That's for LinkedIn. Such posts are human side of the profession.
Okay.
Can be told on LinkedIn. TikTok can be, more authentic, raw. Just video people gossiping in the office just so that we're humans here. Something, but and then it could ride on the trends according to each platform.
Yeah.
You understand? Instagram would be high quality visuals, 15-second stories. For example, Nike does that a lot. And by research, they have 4 times more engagement on such posts on Instagram. For Microsoft, they do that on LinkedIn. What I just said about employee stories and innovation journeys with a human angle. And they have 3 times more shares on LinkedIn than regular industry announcements. So it's just knowing the mechanics of the platforms, but having that human touch and having the framework at the back of the spine of whatever you're communicating.
So let's go to practical tips. So let's go practical now. Like
everything we've been saying.
Yes, I know. Like we're going to be crafting stories. So I'm going to give you a business. Let's do like the most. There's something that you feel like somebody that wants to sell plantain chips.
Okay.
So somebody that wants to sell plantain chips, and there's bakery and everything. So I want to do the whole full branding for my plantain chips. So what is the story I'm supposed to be telling out there? Like a practical story that I can tell to sell my plantain chips. Yes.
All right, to sell plantain chips. All right, so you've given us a exam. Wonderful. It's easy. We can start this with the same framework, right? Let's take it one. Right, the plantain chips. You created the product because of some people in mind, right?
Yeah.
You didn't create it to eat it.
Yes, sir.
Or to eat it yourself. Some people in mind. Who are those people? Identify them. Now you've identified them. People who like plantain.
Yeah.
Right.
Crunchy.
Now, crunchy, peppery, whatever flavor. There's a reason they like plantain, right? But there's a reason behind the reason. Not just because plantain is sweet. Anything is sweet. There are some sweet things that are harmful. For some people who prefer plantain over other finger snacks, right? Now, why? It could be this healthy thing, right? So we're not picking from there and say the real thing is you want to be healthy, despite the fact that you like sweet things, right? There's this idea that we have that, once it's sweet, it's evil, it's not healthy.
Mrs. Sweet Songs, my dad would say, cannot take yo-yo bitters here.
It's ingrained, we have it.
Yeah.
Right? So you can let them know that, it's not every sweet thing that is, right? You've hooked the person like that, right? And then you move on by saying, the desire is also in that statement. There's that health.
Yeah.
So you see that desire there. Then there's the sweet thing. That's like the problem, right? We don't want sweet things because I want to live long and enjoy my money. So in that statement, you've touched on 2 things already. People are willing to listen, right? And then you now continue by positioning yourself. You see, you didn't start by saying, this plantain chips was produced in Lokoja, spent 34 days in production. Nobody cares, right? We are all selfish. We all want to, what will help me live long? And then the next thing is, remember what you've crafted is, not everything that is sweet is unhealthy. And then you tell them, with this plantain, we want to help you achieve your goal of healthy living without contravening your desire for sweet things, right? That's you positioning yourself as
a healthy brand.
as the guide.
Okay, the guide. Yeah.
As like the facilitator. So in that way, they now see that, oh, it's not about this guy. It's about
you.
You understand, right? And then we give them a picture of how their life will be with the product. That's it. Purchase our plantain chips. Be one of the fly guys. You enjoy your sweet stuff. You live healthy, and then you talk a bit about the benefits.
Yeah.
If I don't understand the benefits of it's baked versus the disadvantages of the oil it's fried, it doesn't connect to me.
Okay.
That's features.
Oh.
But in brand storytelling, what works is don't talk about the product features, talk about the product benefits to the consumer.
Okay.
So you might tell them, oh, the consequences of the oily ones is cancer, fatty acid, whatever, cholesterol, all those English Lambert, that will make people scared. And then talk about the benefits of the baking, the fact that, oh, blah, 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 blah. Lambert markets. No, but really, that's it.
Yeah.
Once you present it in that way, where it benefits, people now appeal.
Let's talk about case studies, like brands that are doing this storytelling right. I've been doing it over the years and I've done those consistent stories, yeah.
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria, please.
Quite a number of them. There's GT Bank, Indomie Noodles, there's Jumia. We have a lot. The issue is the lack of awareness around what these brands are doing, unlike American brands where you have statistics and awareness about what they're doing in book, in conferences, in webinars, in online publications, blog posts and all that. So what we really need is more of scholars who would highlight the wonderful things that brands are doing in this part of the world. Citibank, for example, is doing a whole lot of amazing stuff. Indomie as well. MTN Nigeria, Globalcom. So
guys, welcome to the end of today's episode. We've talked about the power of storytelling in business. So your business is more than your products. The product you sell is the emotion that you can attract to. Storytelling helps you get loyal clients, not those clients that can fight. They will drag anybody that drags you. So tell more stories. If you need help, you can leave a question in the comment section. I will drag Tolu. We will answer you. And you can also reach out to him. I think across all your social media is the same name. Yeah. Tolu NeoDaniels. Search for him anywhere, you pop up. Just tell him that you saw him on the Angels Playbook podcast. He's supposed to give you priority. Give out people priority.
With dollars.
Alright, and don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell so you know when we drop the news episode. Write stories today, leave a comment for us. We'd like to hear your feedback. And there comes the end of today's episode. Bye.